right.
Like you gave her a choice.
We could have kicked her out. Where's Diane? All right. Hey, everyone, please sign in if you would. All right, I'll call us to order at 7 p.m. Review our agenda for additions, removal, or adjustment of any items. Is there anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Overview of Zoom meeting operations and procedures, rules and participation. Please mute your microphones and wait to be recognized by the chair before you speak, or you can also put a note in the chat and we'll try to watch that if you're on Zoom. Let's see, public forum. Anyone this evening for public forum? On screen, am I seeing anybody? I'm not seeing any, nope. All right, we're moving right along. Regular business, consider a
department head
roundtable. Department head roundtable, I jumped ahead. Department head roundtable. Who do we have on the screen tonight? I see Sharon.
I see Brett and Sharon.
Sharon, do you want to get us started?
I can go first. Yep, I can go first.
Thank you.
We sent out water bills last week. Delinquent tax bills went out last week, so I've been getting calls about those. Overweight permits are almost caught up, and doing some work for VTM. Sent them some reports for the last year for our sewer system, and there seems to be some issues that I have to look at tomorrow, but I think I know what they are. So, because he has to do a report for us, so we're moving along with that. Just a lot of little bits and pieces here.
Great.
That's
Thank
all
you,
I
Sharon.
got.
Okay. Brett, are you at a place where you can talk with us?
Hello, you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I guess just the one update I'll provide you all with this evening. Last week, three of your fire department employees, Deputy Chief Eric Foran, retired Deputy Chief Peter Coffey, and firefighter James Goodyear traveled to Michigan to the manufacturing plant where the town's new fire engine, their new pumper, is being built. This was a scheduled planned trip. It was part of the contract, so all expenses paid, to do the final inspection on this vehicle. They traveled on Sunday the 16th and came back on Tuesday the 18th, and on Monday the 17th, they spent 9 hours at the plant, just going through every piece of that vehicle, the itemized list we provided them, to vehicle meets our specifications. There's a couple minor things they got to change for us, but otherwise they said it was a very successful trip. They feel very good about the truck, where it's at, and we tentatively could expect to see that vehicle in Bristol in a month. So that would be wonderful to see it. And speaking of seeing it, I have like this 10-second video clip of the truck, if that's anything you would like me to share with you all right now.
Sure.
But the only problem is it was sent to me, it's like an Instagram post, and I can't blow it up. So I don't know what it'll look like to you guys. So I'll leave it to you.
I saw it on Facebook.
All right, you probably all saw it on Facebook. So see, I don't do Facebook, so I don't see anything. So all right, well, I won't share it then, since you've all seen it on Facebook. But no, it's, again, these gentlemen, they took that trip out there. We certainly appreciate them taking time out of their personal schedules to do that. But they're all very excited, as am I, to see the town's new pumper in a month. So, I mean, this is, as I said to Eric a couple of days ago, I mean, this is 3 years in the making. By the time we put together this working group, these persons, to create this vehicle, this custom built pumper, and then of course, a couple years to manufacture it. So yeah, 3 years. I mean, besides the town's beautiful fire station over there at 79 West Street, I mean, this represents the second largest purchase in the fire department's, the town's history for the fire department. It's very significant. So we're excited. And we certainly, again, thank you all for your support on this. And that's all I got, unless you guys got any questions for me.
I don't think so. Nope. Thank you, Brett.
Got it.
See anyone else on? I don't see anybody else up there.
Jill was up there earlier, but.
Jill's there.
Is she there?
Yeah, Jill's there.
Jill, there you are. Oh, you're in the corner. There you go. What do you have for us this evening?
Cyrus is here too. He's just outside of the window. So if you have questions for him, he's here too. So it was pretty eventful last week. We got a call at 5:55 on Monday morning from Mount Abe that they had a riverside water leak in front of their school. We had just completed leak detection the week before that, which had found that there may be a leak there, but it hadn't been visually confirmed given that it wasn't surfacing. So we had the information and had it third on the list, being that there were two that were thought to be larger based on the sounds that they were producing. And it took front and center Monday morning. So headed over there, shut the valve off and made the repair that day. School made the decision to stay open and make some special accommodations to make sure that the students were comfortable. But again, that wasn't our choice. Our choice was to go ahead and shut the water as desired and make that repair. So that was a break on a 3-inch ductile iron service about 4 feet in front of the school, happily not under the school. On top of that, there were 2 other large leaks that were found. One was on Pump House Road, which was the top of our priority, given the fact that the water production has continued to increase significantly day on day and month on month. So we decided to head right for that on Wednesday. Found that to be a 3/4 inch copper service left wide open that used to be the blow off to the water system when Pump House Road was the end. That was capped, closed, disconnected. It was actually off of the 6-inch hydrant T. The hydrant T had a valve on it that was leaking and an older hydrant with only 2 smaller nozzles on it. So we decided to go ahead and we're already there, we're digging, let's get that valve and that hydrant replaced. So we started that the following morning to find that the valve that shut off the water service on Pump House Road, which is the 2 main feeds coming from Pump House up to the tank and of course back down because it goes both directions, and then up South Street in both directions and then back down because it goes both directions, and those valves did not want a seat. So we did have to shut a couple more valves up South Street just above the bridge so as to make the repair. We did still have some water coming through the valve, so we did that repair and that installation live, which was very exciting, very wet, and really happy to have that one done. So we are seeing a reduction in pump hours and in pump gallons. So we're really delighted to have 2 of the big leaks, 2 of the 5 big leaks taken care of, 2 of the 3 big ones. Vital detection is the one that did the leak. And I'm just looking to see, oops, that's the bill. Let me just see if I've got the, I think I can remember them anyways. The last one that's larger is supposedly right on South Street. We want to do some more listening ahead of doing that leak repair because that is potentially right in the road. There is pavement, there would be one-way traffic, and we would have to cut pavement. So since we just fixed a pretty significant water loss on Pump House Road, we want to do a bit more listening and planning before we cut into South Street. So you'll see a little bit more planning on that one as far as when we do that and a little bit more data gathering. And then there's 2 smaller leaks, one on Church Street and one on the corner of West Pleasant and Taylor. Those are both potentially service leaks. So that's what we have. We're really delighted that the leak detection service actually had the right equipment, was able to find the leaks. It was a bit surprising that the one at the high school popped on Monday morning, but that's what they do. They grow and they change and they grow. The other thing is, as Sharon had shared with you guys, Steve was in town doing the engineering survey, or the engineering inspection of the wastewater system on Tuesday. Cyrus accompanied him with that. They did an inspection of the entire wastewater system. Sharon is sending him all the flow calculations for the year. And we will find that our BOD and our TSS loading, which is that organic loading into the system, is quite high compared to the actual hydraulic flows that we have. And at some point, relatively soon, we're gonna have to do something to bring the BOD and TSS down to stay inside of our permit.
Do you have an idea of what that might be? What something might be that would help bring the, other than a pre-treatment, which we're not ready for yet? What are the options?
Well, there's kind of it is pre-treatment, but there's this newer substance called biochar that's being used in a lot of applications to bring down that organic loading. I'm really interested in finding out if there's what I would call like a passive treatment system where it would maybe pass through a biochar filter or tank of some sort to try to reduce that, to see if that's maybe kind of again like a passive, non-moving, doesn't need power and water and all kinds of other things, if something like that might exist before moving to that non-passive, active, actual wastewater treatment facility that's been potentially proposed as some of those alternatives. Yeah, some things are newer in the world than they were 5 to 10 years ago when the last alternatives analysis was done.
Hey, Joe, the leak on Taylor and Pleasant, didn't you guys fix that area before?
Here's the thing.
More than once?
No, so water systems are like grapevine. We have 700 services and 10 miles of water lines. So we have fixed leaks on Taylor and we have fixed leaks on Pleasant. So we haven't fixed that particular one.
For some reason, I thought we fixed one at the intersection.
We put a new hydrant in there.
Is that what we did?
The hydrant got run over, got hit by a car, and we put a new hydrant there.
Okay.
Or repaired it.
So what the leak detection survey believes it is an abandoned service. So, and it's kind of on the West Pleasant side, kind of like.
That's Pleasant
That's
Street.
Pleasant
That's
Street.
Pleasant Street.
Oh, Pleasant
Pleasant
Street.
is below Munsell.
Is below
Okay.
Below Maple.
Maple.
Okay, so Pleasant Street, it's on the Pleasant Street side of that corner. And it's kind of, I don't know, like 50 feet in,
Closer to Maple Street than it is.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
So anyways, yeah, there's one more what's considered to be a larger leak, like 30, 40 gallons a minute, and then two smaller, like 5 gallon a minute leaks. And I'm not sure that we'll see like a whole lot of reduction in gallons in April's monthly operators report, but I would guess that by May, we should start seeing quite a bit less with the blow off closed, the 2 big leaks repaired, and continuing to make progress.
Well, I'm already seeing the drop in the mission reports of the pump times. Yeah.
Yes, we are too. It's like we were, having the opposite feeling for months. Like, they just kept getting larger and we couldn't see them and find them. So, yay.
Thank you. Any questions for Jill or Cy? Okay, Eric, you're up.
Nothing major. We started our summer hours this week, so we're 4 9s and 4 hours on Friday.
Ooh, you keep starting them earlier and earlier.
They're new guys, they don't know.
And so what I like, the guys want, well, I shouldn't say, 4 of the guys would like me to ask you guys if we go to a 4 10-hour days.
We went through this before and the answer was no then.
So I told them I would ask again and see if you guys would be open to doing 4 10-hour days.
We'll have to talk about that, I guess. Now it's run out the time to do that.
But yeah, we can certainly put that on an agenda to talk about. I don't see Bruce
No, I
anymore.
haven't seen him.
Is that I didn't miss anybody?
Chris is not
Well,
on.
Chris, Okay, ready, Chris?
You keep forgetting.
I do
I know.
Chris, I'm sorry.
I know, I don't come very often. I've been here a lot the last few meetings.
That's right.
Zoning's picking up pretty rapidly. It's that time of year. Sun came out, everyone wants to build. Other than that, nothing,
You're just busy.
yeah,
And your new job?
going really well.
Good.
Process payroll last week for the first time.
I heard it went well. We heard it went well.
Yeah, so far so good.
Good job.
Liking it a lot, so it's good.
Great. Well, thank you. Like I said, didn't see anybody else pop on, so we will move forward. Regular business. Consider a proposal by family members to plant a white oak tree on the town green in memory of Loris Kilburn Chamberlain.
Hello, hi, Callie, Bryn. Thanks for having me. I know you, I think saw John Swepson's recommendation. I think it's attached in the agenda as well, but just to kind of summarize that, he and I met a couple weeks ago, and I know that he also met with Meredith from the rec department just to check out the green, to see if there was a suitable location. And we did identify one in the northeast kind of corner. There's also, he also mentioned there are at least one or two trees that are definitely like should be removed. I don't know when, but this soon. They're not, some sugar maples aren't doing too well. So yeah, we were just wondering if we could plant a white oak for Loris, and the family would purchase the tree, plant it, stake it, water it, all that kind of stuff. And so if there's anything else that, you have questions about or would need from us on our end, I'm happy to work on that.
Was that the tree he recommended be planted there?
Yeah. Yeah, he said that white oaks are really great. He wouldn't recommend sugar maples. They're just not happy on the green. But he was saying that white oaks would be, they are really solid. They can handle kind of being in an urban area.
Yeah, he said that that's the right tree in the right location.
So he recommended we remove the dying tree first?
That's what I was gonna say, our policy is we can't put one in until we remove one, so it seemed gonna make
Appropriate.
sense to remove it.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if somebody had mentioned that there was one that was removed last year, but a tree hadn't been planted, so I didn't know what that.
He removed a crabapple last year near the playground area. I'm not sure when he's back in town to do the other removal that he recommends, but yeah, we don't have a date for that.
Yeah, I know he was on vacation tonight, so he was thinking he might be able to call in, but
Yeah, no.
wasn't sure.
So if a tree was removed, it seems like we have the option to plant a new tree regardless of where it is.
Well, that was gonna be my question, is where, I guess if he says that's the location, but are we gonna be tree heavy in that area if we don't take another one out there?
And is the one coming out in that area?
Yes, the one, at least one of them coming out is right in that same area, and it would open up some light that would benefit the new tree.
So, if we give the approval, then I think we need to also make sure that
The first one's moved?
that the other one gets removed soon. If they plant the tree before it's removed, but it needs to be removed.
Yeah, in his letter, he says, would serve as a replacement for a nearby sugar maple. Would serve as a replacement for a nearby sugar maple that is in serious decline and will most likely need removal at some point. So we should just get a firm date on that at some point, and then we should be all set with the new tree going in, I would think.
But if we follow up with John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have no problem doing this, but I think we need a date certain when that tree comes out.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that too, Michelle.
But would that affect the approval of the white oak being planted prior to May 5th?
I guess I think I'm
don't think
okay with that, as long as we have a date certain that other one's coming out.
Yeah.
And certain that the new white oak they're planting on May 5th isn't gonna get damaged by taking the old one out.
Right.
We're gonna put something in. I know they
Yeah, we
like
tell
that
them.
date, because I think they're Memorial that day or a few days
Right.
after.
Mhm.
And it's not, you know, it's, if it can't happen by then, that's totally fine too. I know it's so,
I just don't
It's
wanna
coming out.
damage something you've done
right,
by taking out the old tree that we all know has gotta come out.
Right.
yeah,
Well, he'd probably take it out and then just grind the stump, right?
that's what
I
he
don't
said.
know.
Yeah, he
That's what he
pointed out some other areas, some spruce and stuff that had, in that kind of area that had been ground out. Because we were looking at the map of the trees on the green, and so, is there anything that the zoning administrator needs to do for this?
Yeah, there was a question if a permit needs to happen.
No, because it doesn't qualify as development per the regulations, so no, nothing is required from my end.
Great, yeah, thanks, Chris. Great,
I'll make the motion to allow him to plant a white oak in, Loris's memory.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, there you go, Callie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, moving on. Continued appointment and or reappointment of town officers and representatives. Consider candidates Allison, I'm gonna say your name wrong, Allison Pouliot. Did I get that right, Allison?
She's right.
Oh, you're there, okay. And for the Energy Committee, and John Merriman, I probably said that wrong too, for the Conservation Commission. So Allison, seeing you're here, do you want to tell us why you're interested?
So I'm interested. I recently retired, so I have a little bit of free time, and I figured it was about time I did something to support the community that I live in. I am very interested in energy conservation, and I've undertaken some things in my own home for that, and I look forward to being able to share some of that information with people in town and with the committee. And I've also started in my retirement, I'm doing a part-time role with an organization, a nonprofit called Window Dressers. So I've learned a lot about that, and I'm just hoping to share that with people on the committee as well.
I still think you're quite involved in the food shelf.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've done, yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
You
you're
only have a little bit of time, right?
Right.
Yeah, I have enough time.
I make a motion, we appoint Allison to the Energy Committee.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you, Allison. And do we have John with
Yep,
us?
he's
I
on.
believe so.
I'm here.
Hi, John.
Can you hear me?
We can. Can you
Okay.
tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested?
Yes. Well, I am also retired, and I had a career with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And while I was working, I participated in a number of volunteer activities. I was president of a nature center. I was on a county environmental commission, and I was the president of the board of directors of a convention and visitors bureau for a county. So anyways, a number of volunteer things that related to environmental issues. And we've been in Bristol about 8 years and gotten to know folks in the community and the parks and the resources. And so I thought maybe it's a good time I saw there was an opening, and I knew a couple of people on the commission. And so I thought maybe it'd be a good time to volunteer.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I will.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and Michelle has stepped out for a moment, so the majority has it. We're good to go. Thank you, John.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay, anything else with those appointments or anything else we need to know, Valerie?
No, there are no adjustments to the table, other than we now know that Naomi Drummond is not interested in being reappointed to the transit board. And so she's going to give some thought to anybody else that she might recommend to be appointed in her place. But at the moment, we don't have any other candidates.
Naomi served in that
Long
capacity
time.
for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the TDT board now, or is it a broader one?
Tri-Valley Transit.
Right. Is
Addison
it that?
County Transit something.
Okay, so it's a broader thing than just.
I think
than just
so,
TDT.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe they've expanded their service, so.
Yeah, yeah, to Randolph.
Oops, I'm gonna run out of battery here.
So we don't have any other appointments tonight.
Okay.
Great. All right, so moving on is the debrief of the 34 Garfield Street permit issuance. Review of the facts leading to the construction of the 1,200 square foot accessory structure. So it'll be important to know tonight that we're not talking about all of our zoning laws and then all of that. We're talking about this particular piece and this particular permit, just to keep us on task.
So Chris is there, and I think he's probably in the best position to give an overview of what was originally proposed, what was permitted, and what's happened since then.
Sure. In February, the landowner.
You want to, Chris? Can you come to the table? Is that possible? Just for
Sure.
just for the camera.
Okay, there we go. So in February of 2022, the landowner at 3436 Garfield Street placed an application for a 30 by 40 two-story garage with an apartment to be built in the northeast corner of the lot. With a discussion with the landowner, he wanted to do an accessory dwelling unit in that structure. The discussion followed that the ADU could not be constructed while his primary residence of 3436 Garfield was a duplex. He still moved forward. In hindsight, probably should not have quote unquote conditioned that. It's not really my authority to give a condition. I was trying to be helpful. My bad. We'll ease off on that in the future. The next is that the building, it's a 30 by 40. The maximum size, structure size footprint in that zone, which is the HDR, the high density residential, is 1,000 square feet. Somewheres I missed that. Error occurred. Long and short of it, speaking with the landowner, if that had been brought to his attention, he still would have continued with this project. He would reduce that building down to by 6 feet. I think is what he said it would be to meet the 1,000 square foot footprint. So the project itself still would have continued, same structure, same position. As he said, he would have gained 6 more feet of his own personal backyard. The building was constructed. He began last fall, finished it up, or is still finishing as we speak. There's windows to go in and other trim work to go. He has other uses potentially for that structure at this point in time. He will, and is not sure if he will be pursuing the accessory dwelling unit as a use in that structure at this point in time. And that's my scenario at this, or my rundown at this point.
So if he doesn't use it as an accessory dwelling, where does that stand as far as the permit?
The permit was issued for the physical structure. So that's the other piece is we need to separate the two issues. You have one, which is the physical structure, which is an accessory building. That is a standalone permit. The accessory dwelling unit is a use inside of that building. It's no different than if he was going to have a doctor's office. It's the same thing. It's a use. It's not the structure. The structure and the use are very separate.
And the permit is issued for the structure?
It was for both.
Okay.
He asked for both, and both were issued. Again, with the ADU, with his understanding that he couldn't get an occupancy permit for that until his primary was converted to a single family dwelling, which is what he was toying with at the time.
He lives in the,
Yes, he does.
one of the places in front.
He lives in one of the units in the front.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
So the existing structure as built, even though it is 1,200 square feet in footprint, the permit was issued by statute, in my error, unfortunately, it is a legally issued permit. The structure is legal. It falls going forward as a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And any changes to that structure will require a conditional use permit issued through the Development Review Board going forward.
But he could put a ADU in there because he's got permit for that at this point without, if he changes the house back to a single family.
He has one more
residence.
year, yes.
Okay,
And if
right,
there's
and
no
then he would have to
activity,
reapply.
yep, if within one more year that this does not occur, the use goes away, and because there's no activity on the permit, it surpasses its 2-year.
Is it, I just want to be clear in my own mind, Chris, is the 1,200 foot still non-conforming?
Yes, sir.
Even if it
Right.
is not an
That's
accessory dwelling?
Yep,
Okay.
1,000 square feet is the maximum for an accessory building in the high-density residential zone.
it could, Chris, is there enough land there if he came back and said, I want to do a boundary adjustment and have 2 lots? Could he then have an accessory building, a dwelling in that?
Not at this point in time.
Because
No.
that's not a very big lot.
0.3 acres, it's, depending on where the zoning changes shake out that are being worked on right now by the planning commission, there was talk. One of the reasons behind this was, as we all know, there is a shortage of housing in our community. And that was sort of his goal, was to try to figure out, while building a structure that he wanted, to be able to utilize part of it to, A, provide some housing, and B, help offset the cost of the project.
So Chris, does he have the certificate of occupancy right now?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so what does he need to do in order to get his certificate of occupancy?
He would have to, A, build the apartment. There is no apartment inside of the structure at this point in time. The shell that you see on the outside, with the exception of a floor between the 2 structures, is about all that he has in there at this point in time. He would have to build it, construct it, then we would do a tour. He would have to prove out that the primary residence has been converted from a duplex to a single-family dwelling. And then at that point in time, we would walk through the criteria, things like, is it 900 square feet or less? Does it have adequate wastewater, adequate parking, and that he is residing in one of the 2 structures?
Okay. And is that the only way that he can use that building? By getting the certificate of occupancy?
As an accessory dwelling unit, yes. He could use it for other purposes, a garage, or other possible ventures that would be permitted in that zone.
Okay, so regarding that, if let's say he decides to use it as something else other than a place to live, does he require a certificate of occupancy, or is that only for a residential location?
All structures, any zoning permit issued requires a certificate of compliance. We don't issue certificates of occupancy technically. We've condensed it into one document, but yes, that would still be required.
Okay, and so how would he go about, let's say he's just going to use it as a garage for some storage upstairs and then garage downstairs. He would then come to you. That seems like something he could get now without doing the residential part. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so he can still, he's not like trapped in a position where he can't use this building that he's built. He can still get that certificate, but he has to say that I'm going to be using it for this purpose and not this one.
Correct. It would have to be used as a accessory building, i.e. a garage storage unit for his own personal use. And that the certificate of compliance basically is stating that it meets the specifications that were issued in the permit as far as size.
Okay.
And location.
Has it got sewer and water in it now?
I do not believe so.
And maybe you can't answer this, can he put it in there even if he doesn't use it as an accessory dwelling?
I believe he would have to have his wastewater permit adjusted for its use, but he could have I'm trying what the exact term is they use, when you have a bathroom in a outbuilding, that is doable, people do it all the time. The state designates I wanna say, it's not accessory, I can't remember the exact term, but yes, you can.
So Peter, I don't know if you remember, he came to us, the
Right.
select board as the water commissioners, and we told him
He could take water,
Take
as
water
long as it
from-
was metered, he could take
Right.
water off of the
he
front
was
house.
front of the house.
Right.
So Chris, you were saying about he had to live in one, if he turned the house back into some duplex to a single and rented that out, could he be an absentee landlord, could he rent and be an accessory building?
Absolutely not.
He has to be in one of them?
The way the current regulations read is that one has to be one of the two needs to be owner occupied.
Okay, and then you talked about, Chris, that after the year, is that only for the accessory dwelling unit, or is that also to use it as a garage because it becomes non-conforming after a year?
No, it's non-conforming today, technically. It would be, what would pass on it would be the accessory dwelling unit option. If there's no movement on that project within 2 years, then the permit is defunct. It's viewed as a non-started project and the use is revoked.
And it's 2 years from the date of issuance, right?
Issuance, that is correct.
Okay, so then to use a garage, does he go before the development review board because it is non-conforming?
No, because that's what it is today, because that's what he asked to build. It was very clear, it was a 30 by 40 two-story garage. Was one of the uses requested, so that's how I would view it going forward.
So it's already on the permit, that particular request.
Those exact words.
Right, yeah, two-story garage and apartment. Okay, so he could come to you, get his permit if he's just gonna use his garage, or after, or as you said, he redevelops the front building, so it's a single family, then he can do the ADU. After another year, since the permit's been issued, then he goes before the development review board if he wants to do the ADU.
Correct, or any other use that's not a by right use in that structure.
Right, okay, that's not on the permit, got it, okay.
Is one of the issues also with the building is the way it's a metal building, kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, so to speak.
Yeah,
and is that something overall, the whole planning commission and zoning board should look into?
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here on that one.
I was gonna offer my input on it first.
Go
First of all,
ahead.
as a professional, my job is not to zone pretty. We look at uses and are they compatible. If you walk around this community, there is one of the things that makes our town what it is, in our village what it is that every property is unique. If we want to live in something that looks the same in every house, we should move into the subdivisions that are going on in South Burlington, Williston, and Essex. That is not what we're looking for. Is it out of shape? There's a lot of houses when you walk around this community, when they were built, they would never be allowed. One example is on Mount Street, used to be the Hant House. I don't know who lives there now, I apologize. It's the stone house next to Giles' house. That's totally out of character for the neighborhood. So as you walk around, you've got Kevin Hansen's garage does not fit the neighborhood. There's every place you go, something doesn't fit, but that's what gives us our quirkiness.
My garage with a carport.
Well, the PC's working on some of this stuff, but unfortunately, their hands are tied based on the state statutes of what they can and cannot do. And you cannot decide, okay, that doesn't look appropriate, because then you're just discriminating against others. So, because I had mentioned some things like notice to landowners, and they're talking about that, making it look in the character that's around, and that's where we got into the discussion about the state statute and what they allow, what they can't allow, so, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can dictate, as to what it looks like, what it doesn't look like, what they can put up, as long as it meets
the rules,
the regs that are
If it
there.
meets dimensional standards and it is a by right use, and that's sort of the intention of why it's vague in state statute, is to allow the uniqueness that makes our town and our state fun.
The state right now is,
Everybody can have a duplex.
Putting in
Every house could be a
regs,
duplex.
and they aren't thinking always long-term. you know, and what that effect will have, so that may restrict them even more.
Yeah, the changes to the housing law are not necessarily positive for the communities. For the overall state and the housing issue, it hopefully can alleviate some of the pressure, but I think it unfairly forces small towns' hands into what they have to allow for development.
So this is a little bit outside the box, but how does a community like Manchester, where you can only paint your house one of 5 colors, you know, you can only have a fence that looks like whatever, how do they get around some of that?
So my guess would be that it's similar to our downtown, designated downtown area, there's a designation of some sort, they may have designated a larger portion of their village.
Historical, like a historical.
Right, so
something
our
rather
historical
than-
downtown, we have very strict criteria on that. And that would be my guess, I don't know specifically, but that's.
No, I'm guessing you're probably right, and that's, just as we were talking about that, I was thinking, how does a community, they're very strict.
It's typically a design review district of
Yeah.
sorts.
Okay.
There are a few houses in our design review district. Mainly, we look at it from a business point of view. That's how it was originally overlaid in terms of the main street. There are, as I said, there were a few houses in there that either asked to be put in, like the co-housing, because of grant applications and things like that. Usually we've had some houses that have been asked to be removed from the district, and that district line has been redrawn so as they don't fall under that, so they can put up a particular type of fence that maybe wouldn't be approved in that district. But I mean, partly that's the zoning laws too. I mean, in our zoning, the requirements for HDR, you can build 1,000 square foot. That's just your site. You can build up to 35 feet high as well. You know, and that building that he put in isn't 35 feet high by any means. You know, you could build a lot larger, and there are a lot larger structures on other properties out there that are under 35 feet. So I think I mean, Chris can't look at how it's going to look. He's looking at the zoning regulations and seeing whether it meets those.
Yeah, I always say, do the boxes fit in the boxes? And that's really when I look at from a dimensional standard. In the character of the neighborhood, I mean, the other part is, ever since this went down, I've spent a lot of time cruising around the village. Just about every street you go on, there's at least one garage that's as big, if not bigger, than the house. On almost every street in our village, we have. Yeah. There happens to be. I mean, there's two others on Garfield Street itself that are bigger than their primary structure.
Yep.
So this is not uncharted territory in our community.
There's 2 questions in the chat.
Yeah.
One is
Yeah.
setbacks and the other is posting of the permit.
Posting before
Sure.
building.
So the setbacks in the high density residential area requirements are 10 feet from the property line. That structure as spec'd is 12 feet from the northern and the western property line. Anyone who's been up and looked at it carefully the hedgerow that is on the eastern neighbor's property is at about 12 feet as well off from the Bazer's property line to the north. So it stays right in that line, and that's about 12 feet off.
And the other question was posting.
Sure. The process is when a zoning permit is issued for a by right use, or actually any building permit, there's the infamous P poster that is sent out to the applicant. They need to post that poster for 15 days. There's a date. And during that 15 days is when the appeal period can occur from anyone in the community. If there's no appeal on day 16, the permit is deemed issued and the project can move forward at that point in time.
Just out of curiosity, what happens if they don't post it? I mean, they should be posting it on the property where people could see it.
The law, or our regs state clearly, and I believe state law also states that it needs to be visible from the nearest right of way. So his was posted in the front window of his home on Garfield Street. I try to drive around after I issue permits and make sure that I see those out there. I have my list of, and if I don't see them, it's a phone call. And if they still don't comply, I can start the clock over technically.
And that's an 8 by 10?
Yeah, it's an 8 by 10. It's a white sign with a big bright red P on it, and the date of issuance and the date of appeal are both listed on those signs.
So be careful climbing up on somebody's porch.
Well, that's,
You might get
yeah, I
shot.
was just thinking like, How close am I gonna get?
Yeah,
Well, you know, if you see the P there, you can come down to the office and review the permit.
Right, so there's two things, in the front lobby is they stack, every permit that's issued, a copy of it is placed in the lobby. Typically on the back, I try to place the site plan on the back side of it. And if people want more details, I am here now 5 days a week and my office is readily available.
How long do you, how old are the ones that are out there that you keep them out there for? A year?
They're all of last year's and this year's currently. I try to recycle out at the beginning of the year, the previous year. There are 2 years prior.
John, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I have a few remarks and I just want to come in at the appropriate time and I don't know when that is.
Are there any other questions in the chat? I'm sorry, my computer died, so.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, the only question,
That's
the only thing I would say, and I told this,
Did he say that clear?
I think so.
PC,
Yeah.
is that I think the notice piece would be nice, even if people can't do anything about the permit.
100%.
At least letting them know. I know that creates more work for you guys, but at
Like
least
letting
then
the
they would
neighbors
be
know?
in the know. Yeah, like the adjoining landowners in the know. You know, so if they have concerns or questions they can ask. It doesn't mean that the permit's not gonna be issued, because if they're in compliance with all the regs, then.
Right.
So the hard part too there is at what point, who does that fall back on? Is that on the landowner? Like right now, if you are having a hearing for conditional use or subdivision or anything that requires landowner notification, it needs to be done by certified mail, and that onus falls back on the landowner, and that costs $700 a neighbor.
Yeah, I know.
So if it's every permit we put out, so you want to build a 10 by 10 shed to store your garden rakes, you got to go out and notify all your neighbors. So it's really.
And how do we define neighbor?
Yeah, well,
Is
Is it across the road or is it
Yeah.
abutting
Yeah.
the
So technically
it
in
would be the
butter.
same way wastewater permit. If you are an abutting landowner.
An abutting landowner.
Then you get
And the
notice.
street, and across the street does count as a budding landowner if you're parallel. So there's a lot of options out there that we're the planning commission is looking at this. It will have to go through the planning commission process to change it.
Yeah.
Because it called out in our zoning, in our UDR. I think it's something as simple as running a weekly report and just posting it on the website, so that if people feel the need, they can go out once a week and cruise the website. And so at least getting the information maybe an easier way. So we're trying to figure that out. I agree. It's a process that was started 5 years ago or so.
Right.
And the voters have to approve those changes, so it's not like, it's
Yeah, you
not
can't
out
make
there
that
for you to
instantly.
look at and say, make comments on.
Right.
Not that anybody really reads that, except for those of us that have to.
So Chris, a couple questions. For the permits that you approve, is there an electronic version of those or is it just the paper copies at the moment?
I have an electronic copy. I scan them all as well.
Okay, so we could post those similar to how you post those out just in the foyer there. We could put those online electronically, or is there something that prevents us from doing that?
No, we could.
Does it have personal information?
It depends.
We'd have to redact them because it does have all the personal contact info. I mean, so it would be, you would have to, as a select board, would have to come up with a policy from there as far as, and make sure that that's all legit. Like I said, the posting, the description, I think you all have seen that report before I've generated. It's an easy report. It gives where it is the homeowner and a one-line description of what they're doing, whether it's an addition, it's a shed, a new house, whatever it is. And I think that would be a step in the right direction. Then somebody pick up the phone and call me.
Right.
Okay.
And just, I'm
Yeah,
just going
it's-
to throw out there that once the permits are issued, they're also in the land records. So anybody can find them.
They're a public document anyway.
They're a public document, yeah.
Can the land records be searched electronically, or do you need to go into the town offices in person?
No, if they want to pay the fee, they can search electronically through COT system.
Okay, but the
Michelle's
town
done
doesn't,
it.
the
Yeah,
town
I
doesn't
know.
offer that. We don't offer like an electronic way to look. Someone would have to pay for that.
Well, they can look at the index for free, but if they want to look at the actual document, then there's a fee.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Slim,
Just
you
like
had a
there's a
question?
fee if they come in and look at it,
Okay. Yeah,
if they
Slim
want
had
to
a
make a
question.
copy. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sharon. Slim?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that this is not just an accessory building, like Chris was talking about how it would be difficult to notify neighbors or this and that. This was permitted as an accessory dwelling unit, which has seriously higher chances of having impact on the neighbors, whether it's lights or other noises or parking, etc. And the neighbors I've talked to, I think, feel most or quite a bit unhappy about not getting a more clear notice. Truly that permit sign was, you'd have to walk up on the porch, which people are loath to do. And people are busy. Some of these people have very busy jobs and they're not always home to see it, even for 2 weeks. I don't see the difficulty in the big difficulty in notifying neighbors for the permit for an accessory dwelling unit, which, as I will repeat, it has every likelihood of having a larger impact. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. I think, John, now's as good a time as any for you.
All right, so thank you guys for making time in your agenda for this. I know how busy you are. And this feels really important, and so I'm glad you made some time with it, for it. I'm here just as a Bristol resident, though I'm on the Planning Commission and the Development Review Board. I'm not representing either board, I'm just here representing myself. You know, you've touched on a lot of things, but included with the materials for this meeting was the zoning administrator's letter at, you know, addressing one of the neighbors' concerns. And when I read it, it raised as many questions as the time.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Oh, no. Ian, can you undo that?
Sorry, hold on.
Yeah,
It was me. I hit the wrong button. I was trying to mute me. Hey, can you unmute? Sorry, I made a mistake. Can you unmute the town account? Somebody, I apologize. I thought I was muting me.
Yeah, I can't control it.
Someone will have to do it from the computer there. Chris, can you jump in and just unmute the town computer? Or use the L button?
Sorry, I don't know that.
Just.
There we go.
My apologies. I thought I was muting me. I apologize, John, and you were speaking. You might have to start back up a little bit. I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
It's all right.
All right, I'm here representing myself, not the Planning Commission, the zoning board that I serve on. I'm just here because I'm a concerned citizen tonight, although I'll bring whatever lessons I learned back to those boards. And I don't want to have a policy discussion. I do just want to respond to the letter that was included with the board in the board packet tonight. That was a response from the zoning administrator to one of the neighbors who brought up some concerns. So I'd like to just mention a few points.
Again, town administrator, not zoning administrator, correct?
No, I believe it was from the zoning administrator to Mary Ann Baser.
Oh, I didn't have that one.
It was your email response
The email
to
to
Marion's
Yeah.
concerns.
Sorry. I took it to my computer, but it's out.
And in that, the reasons why the project went forward are summarized. And so I'm responding to those specifics, and I'll make it quick as I can. You know, it says in the beginning that, and I'm looking at the second paragraph, you know, that the building would be considered a building with a 1,200 square foot footprint, except it wasn't. It was considered, it should have been considered as a, you know, it wasn't considered as a 1,200 square foot footprint. It was considered okay because there was a mistake that got made that it was okay because it was 2,000s allowed in that zone. But on the chart that's right below there, that's drawn from the zoning regs, it says 1,000 square foot accessory. So I appreciate the zoning administrator's admission of an error on that in that regard. But you know, the original application for the project showed a 30 by 40 box. It said it's a garage and ADU 30 by 40, and that's a big miss. And if it had, you know, at that point, that would have been enough to say, no, this doesn't qualify right there, but that was missed. You know, it says per the plan provided, the applicant's project meets the requirement. On the setback, that's true, but the plan, as I said, showed when it was submitted a 30 by 40 box and it mentioned 30 by 40 in a different location. So per the plan provided, it may have met the setbacks, but it didn't meet the first requirement, which is not exceeding 1,000 square feet. That got missed. A basic rule in zoning, like the fundamental rules, when somebody puts an application in for a project, the rules that are in effect that day are the rules by which it's judged. And the reality on the ground that day is the reality that is compared against the regulations, not in the future, not what it might be, not when the guy moves in later. That's not the way it's done in zoning. That's zoning 101. So clearly there was a discussion about the fact that it didn't meet, needing to inhabit one of the two structures by the owner, only being up to 1,000 square feet of livable space, and the primary house needs to be a single-family dwelling. Well, it appears that at the time of the discussion, the owner was not resident, because they're discussing that he needs to be resident. The regs don't talk about livable space. If you search the regulations, the words livable space do not appear in the Bristol zoning regulations. It's not about livable space, it's about the footprint. So if we're judging based on livable space, which is an arbitrary thing that somebody gets to decide, randomly what means livable space or not, then that leaves a kind of big hole in the zoning regs. It's not about livable space. And yet it went through. The primary house needs to be a single family dwelling. It wasn't at the time of application. It should have been rejected on that basis right there at that time. It doesn't matter what he wants to do with it in the future. It's how it exists at the time. So it doesn't matter that he's looking at converting the duplex to a single family unit. Well, he didn't yet, as far as I know. It's at the time that it matters. It says this would convert the structure, I'm reading from the letter, if he did these things, this would convert the structure from a pre-existing non-conforming structure to one that is in line with the town of Bristol UDR. Well, what that means is, read into that a little bit. What that means is the building that didn't yet exist was going to be built, and the day it was completed, it would be a pre-existing, it was only pre-existing when it was finished being built. It wasn't pre-existing when the application was put in there. There was nothing there. So the moment it was finished built, it was a non-conforming use. So in other words, the zoning allowed a non-conforming use to be built with, I guess, promises that later it would come into conformance. But that's not how it works. So clearly here on this sentence written by the zoning administrator that it was non-conforming and that it would come into conformance later. Well, that doesn't really cut it. Further down, the decision is based on the building's use and the dimensional standards for the zone. The use, accessory building, ... it's not an accessory building. It's an accessory dwelling. And the zoning regulations are clear. There are two definitions. One for existing accessory building, which is something like a garage, and there's another one for accessory dwelling unit. And the first one, the one for accessory building, explicitly says that an accessory building cannot have a dwelling in it. If it does, it's not an accessory building, it's an ADU. That's the higher, more impactful use anyway, so the regs are right on that. But it's not, the use is not accessory building. The use is accessory dwelling. It didn't get considered that way, apparently. Down towards the bottom of the letter, the zoning administrator quotes some guidance from the Vermont Planning Information Center, which I like this guidance. It says, impartiality, and I'm quoting from the guidance, impartiality is the ability to take action indifferently. The ZA should not care personally whether a permit is issued or not. The ZA's only motive is to issue a proper decision under the bylaws of the municipality. Impartiality would be saying 1,000 square foot limit, this is 1,200 square foot, doesn't meet it. That's impartial. Not, we'll consider what the living area inside is and then maybe decide whether it meets it or not. That's not impartiality, that's ambiguity and arbitrariness. The the idea that it could come into compliance later after it's built, that's not impartiality. That's not applying the rules in black and white as they're written. That's exerting some judgment, some discretion that's not written into the regs on a particular circumstance. And, you know, I just think that there wasn't impartiality applied here. In the process of looking into this kind of stuff, I looked at the zoning regulations, of course, for the ones that are currently in effect, which is, they were passed in 2020, they're actually passed in 2021, but we all call them the 2020 bylaws. And, you know, there isn't a lot of ambiguity in them. It's pretty clear. And, but I also noticed that in the 2017 regulations, for the same section 404 regarding accessory dwelling units, there was additional language in the regs. And that language was stricken from the 2020 regulations, but I'm hereby formally asking the town to get an opinion from the town attorney about whether the language that was omitted from the 2020 regs that existed in the 2017 regs might still be in force. I have already sought an opinion from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns on that. And their initial blush, not to be held to them, but their initial blush from one of their attorneys was, if it wasn't properly warned, if it wasn't properly put in the letter, the transmittal letter from the planning commission, here are all our changes that we're proposing to the select board. Select board accepts that and it goes to a town vote. If it wasn't properly accounted for in that transmittal letter, then these words might still be in effect in our town today. We don't know that. I would note that if they were in effect in town today, they would have given the zoning administrator a lot more guidance in this particular circumstance on 34 Garfield Street. And I'll give you copies of that, you can read it on your own. But we do need to know whether our zoning regs have this provision in it or not. And right now, the early indication is, even though they're not printed in there, they might be in there. So I am asking the town to get an opinion from the town attorney on that. You know, the bottom line is that zoning's not easy, I understand that. You know, it's a tough job to administer the rules and that sort of thing. And at the policy level, the planning commission can handle that stuff. But we need to know why the rules we have, and it's only a few. I mean, the policy is only that long. Why they weren't followed. And I'm not satisfied by the explanation, I'm sorry. Nothing personal, but I'm just not satisfied.
It is personal.
Well, it's not.
I have a couple of questions now. So if it had been 1,000 square foot building, and we've gone over that, and I don't need to know why it was just missed. So how much of that 1,000 square foot building could have been a dwelling? All of it?
900 square feet.
900 square feet.
1,000, I believe, right?
So if it was 1,000, not 1,200?
Yes, 1,000, you're right.
So is it 90% of the building can be a dwelling? And 10% be the garage?
The regs don't offer any guidance in that regard.
So why is it going to say 900?
It's 900 because the new state regs that are maybe coming online may limit it to 900. Right now, Bristol is 1,000.
So it had to be 1,000 because.
And the planning commission has agreed to move forward with using 900 as a future number on the next round of changes to propose to the voters.
But as of now, the future might be 1,000, but as John was saying.
No, future,
Will
right
be
now, it's
900 probably.
900, so he could only use 900 of that.
he could use 1,000
He could
today.
use 1,000 right now.
1,000 is what today is, 1,000 is today.
But the regs don't say how he uses he's got a 1,200 square foot footprint building there. That's what the regs measure. They don't give anybody discretion to say inside of that 1,200 square foot footprint, a closet doesn't count as livable space, a stairway doesn't count as livable. There's no guidance like that. It's the size of the building, period.
So.
No discretion.
So are you making a recommendation that when this is looked at by the board, that they make some parameters? Is that what you're asking?
That's beyond the select board.
Yeah, I'm
That's
looking at the
that's the
policy
PC, that's the
Yeah.
PC's
Right.
job to do.
Yeah, I haven't raised any policy questions like that. I'm simply keeping it on this particular application and the explanation for why it happened. When, in my judgment, maybe I'm not right, I don't know, that's fine. I could be wrong on every point, but a simple reading of the rules shows this thing shouldn't have been approved, shouldn't have been built. And that, it doesn't mean the guy couldn't have done anything. If it had been declined because it was 1,200 square feet or whatever, he could have altered his plan, come back, and maybe been approved. But the irony of saying zoning administration should be impartial falls on its face when we see the discretion that was applied in this particular application.
But even though a mistake was made, we can all agree.
I was
with
gonna say, that was a mistake.
that.
We're all
He's
human.
12 to 7. He's owned up to that. But we can't say, because it's a 1,200 and you were signed off and you waited your 15 days before you start building, we can't say you gotta tear off 200 feet.
Yeah, there was no appeal done.
And
Yeah, no, I'm not saying how to solve the problem, I'm saying how it got approved in the first place. I don't know how to solve the problem, but the fact is the building got built, and the day it was done, it didn't comport. It became a prior, even though it wasn't existing before it was built, the day it was finished, it was a prior non-conforming use. It didn't conform on the day it was done. How did that get approved? If it does, you don't go approving buildings and then retroactively make them conform.
Well, John, I mean, honestly, it's not like Chris looked at it and said, oh, I'm gonna allow a 1,200 square foot building even though it's not supposed to be there. He made a mistake, the appeal period ran, it's permitted. There's nothing we can do about that.
And
I'm sure it's not the first mistake that's been made
Right.
in zoning.
But of course. Okay, so we have a couple things. We have Teresa Guile has a question.
Yeah,
Teresa?
she's raised her hand a couple of times.
Sorry.
Yes.
Teresa, go ahead. Teresa, are you still there?
She got tired of waiting.
Did you give
No,
up?
she unmuted, but then I
There
can't
she
hear
is.
her.
Hi, Teresa,
Oh,
No,
she
you
muted.
muted yourself
there
again.
you go. Go ahead.
Can't hear her.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Teresa.
Yeah.
Nope.
put it in the chat.
Can you
Yeah,
chat your question?
Chat.
Right,
Or
can you type it in the chat,
disconnect
please?
Yeah, maybe she'll jump back
Yeah,
on.
disconnect and reconnect.
Oh, no, she's down below.
Oh, there you are.
While we're waiting, I would note, it's not just about it being 1,200 square feet. The owner wasn't resident. It's a duplex, not a single family. So on 3 scores.
Actually, Jacob, the gentleman did live there at the time.
But when you were talking to him at the time, he lived there
And
when he
he-
I
applied.
know when he came to us, he was living.
He's lived there since he bought the building.
Okay, so on that score, fine, but then on the
So
other,
an error was made.
so the other, well, that's passive.
It is, it's very passive, he's this whole discussion.
There we go.
Let's go.
We can hear the dog, Teresa.
You can hear me?
There we go,
Yes,
yeah.
there you go.
So mine is a comment, and I want to share this only because I think it would help if there was some type of notification to property owners, which may be cumbersome, but I can tell you years ago, I owned a house on Crescent Street. Right next to me was a single wide with a little shed. And that person who built right next to me was able to put a 2-story higher than 35 feet, blocked our views to the Adirondacks, and we had no idea until it was too late. So had we been notified as a neighbor that abuts that property, we would have gone to get more information. But instead, he was able to, because the little shed that was attached to the single wide met the footprint, quote unquote footprint, he was allowed to build a large dwelling right in front of us. And we were not notified of any of it. So I do think that there's something to learn from this, in that budding property owners should be apprised of the situation. We shouldn't have to drive around to look at permits. We should, especially larger projects that really come into question. That wasn't the footprint of that single wide. So, I'm sympathetic to the property abutters in this predicament, because it does affect the other properties around it. And I just would like some thought to be given to notifying abutting property owners, especially when it's a project of this size. That's all I have.
Thanks. I think
Teresa, can I ask you something? If you had gotten notice of what happened next to your property, would that be helpful even though you could not have done anything to stop the actual permit?
Well, yes, it would, because I would have come to the meetings, I would have expressed my concerns, and I would have wanted answers as to how can this be the footprint when this was a single wide before, and now this is a large 2-story dwelling? That doesn't even conform to the footprint. So,
But I think that's been a recommendation that's been made to the planning commission as they look to overview or update their regs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
So-
if people have those comments or concerns, they should let the PC know. I mean, because that's public opinion and that should be in there, whether they can do it or not, or implement it, that at least they have people with concerns know.
And this item is on the last agenda, and Kevin's got it as an ongoing agenda item as the chair to address how we notify. It is a known issue, and it is actively.
Right.
I just got
And
one question.
Thanks, Teresa.
Go on, Eric.
What's the footprint? Is the footprint just the square and then you can go like 100 feet in the air?
Yeah.
As long as it stays in
35.
that square?
Yeah, 35 feet, yes.
35 feet is the
That's
max?
correct.
Okay, I didn't know. if
I'll
there was
tell
a-
you,
there
in
was.
my case, how they got around it was there was a little shed that was attached to a little walkway that went into the single wide. And he was able to say that that shed was attached to the single wide. And that's how he was able to put that big 2-story dwelling.
Well, the rules also say that an ADU must be, quote, clearly subordinate to the main house, okay? So in the instance that Teresa offers, doesn't sound like that was the case. And then the instance of 34 Garfield Street, the full addition, the full building is 2,400 square feet. I don't know the size of the main house, but it's pretty darn close to the size of the main house. And, I don't know how to interpret clearly subordinate, but at least it was a point that might have been considered. So it didn't meet at the day, on the day of application, it wasn't a single family dwelling. The application was for something larger than 1,000 square feet, and maybe it wasn't a clearly subordinate dwelling. So there's 3 mistakes that were made, not 1.
It is a subordinate dwelling. It's
I guess,
attached, but I guess I'm confused by that.
I'm gonna put myself in that person who's got the permit now, with the dwelling out back, the 12 owners. If he's got a duplex in the front, he's gotta, before he gets a permit and knows that I can build something out back, I gotta turn my duplex into a single family. I guess I wanna have my permit in my hand to know, okay, I got a permit if I do what they want me to do, turn it into the duplex into a single.
That's
Well,
not how zoning works.
But that's a condition of the
That's just not
permit.
how it works.
Correct, 100%.
Doesn't go that way.
I agree.
Right.
No, see, I disagree with you, John. I mean,
Right.
I am not gonna put up an ADU and not know I can have the permit. I mean, to me, the condition of the permit is you get that permit if you do these things. It's no different than giving a driveway access permit that
Driveways
says,
on-
these are the
on
conditions of
driveways.
the driveway permit.
You don't get your access permit unless you do these conditions.
Right, but one of
But
the,
you got the permit in hand.
but one of the ways you get the permit is that the property has to comport on these points, and it didn't at the time of application. That's how zoning is done.
Correct.
At the time the application is put in, the conditions on the ground and the rules in effect are the ones used to judge the situation.
Correct.
Not the future condition, not the maybe. And I would point out that as far as ADUs go, it's a permitted use in all districts. Nobody is gonna stop anybody from getting an ADU permit. It's just about how they do it. You can't stop it. It's a permitted use.
Actually, it's not allowed in the commercial district.
Right, and probably not in conservation, but basically.
Actually, conservation it is.
In all the zones that matter when there's housing, I mean, that's basically, it's allowed. And so it's not future use. This is, because you can understand how would one administer future promises? You don't. You administer the reality on the ground the day the permit is put in. That is law. That's what stands up in court if things come to litigation. What the reality was on the ground and what the rules were in black and white on the day the application was put in.
Absolutely.
John, I'm gonna thank you for bringing all of that
Thank you
to
for all
our
the time, I
time.
appreciate it. And I'm just gonna hand you this, these are copies of the section 404, and I would like to ask that
Thanks.
there's a few more copies. I don't know if I have one for everybody. I think the town ought to clarify what's in force in our regs or not.
So that, and as far as I know, is up to the planning commission to make those changes, but thanks for coming in tonight.
Well, these are not changes.
He's talking about whether there was duly notice from 2017 to 2020, and I believe that was all done correctly, because we did it a couple times, because they didn't notice it right the first time.
So the notice should have said in there, it's supposed to say what all the changes are, and if it doesn't, then those changes aren't officially accepted and they can't be voted on. These, there's some ambiguity here, but it looks like that section of the regs was not warned to the public, so the public didn't know it was changing that section, and therefore, if that were the case, this section would still be enforced. If this section were enforced, the zoning administrator would have more guidance to help figure out what to do at 34 Garfield Street.
All right, thank you, John. Thanks for
Thank you
coming.
guys for all the time, I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming in and talking to us, and thanks. All right, moving on.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Number 5, Vermont State Hazard Mitigation Plan update, review and discussion.
You got 4.
Oh, I jumped over 4 because I wrote notes all over it, that's why. 4, consider proposal to relocate the one-way entrance to the fire station at, I'm gonna say 79 because I wrote all over it, West Street, approximately 75 feet westward.
Where's Brett?
He's there.
He's there.
He was gonna come.
He's there.
No, he's
Calm
there.
down.
Oh, sorry, I
He's
got
right there.
lost in that previous conversation.
Sorry, Brett, I almost skipped you, so I apologize for that.
No. So I guess I'll just give you a little background. So Eric, our Public Works Director, approached me about the one-way drive on the west side of the fire station, which my drawing there, that red circle, is showing the existing driveway that comes in. And then if you notice those black hash marks, that's kind of a proposed new drive. And if you have ever driven a plow truck, you probably can imagine this picture doesn't do it justice, but that S-turn, as I call it, is difficult to navigate with a plow truck, as far as, ending up on the road, ending up on the lawn. And they just, I can't speak for the Public Works employees, but they certainly have had many concerns about it over the years. And recently Eric came to me and asked about, hey, can we look at straightening this road out? And I said, I can only tell you what I know. And what I know is 7 years ago, when we sat down and designed this facility, at that time, someone, I don't know if it was through our architect from the Agency of Transportation, stated that is where that entrance needed to be due to line of sight at the top of that hill. So that's why that's why we have this S curve in front of the building. Obviously a straight line is much easier to, 1, maintain, but 2, navigate with a vehicle. So that is why I ended up where I ended up. So this surface, I reached out to the Agency of Transportation last week, and the response I got, which I shared with our town administrator, was simply, this is a class 1 road, and the AOT V-Trans has no concerns with what the town of Bristol may or may not do with their drives in front of their fire station. So with that being said, I am simply here to say that if this is something Public Works would like to do and the select board supports this initiative, I'm in support of it if you all are. But as I already noted to Eric, this is nothing I've budgeted for, nor would I even consider expending fire department operating funds to do this. But Eric said that the cost would be absorbed, I guess, out of his budget if this was to happen. So I will leave it at that and let Eric jump in.
No goodie. So like Brett said, to plow that thing, on the corners, we're off the road onto the lawn, and it makes a heck of a mess for spring cleanup. And Brett does a really good job of keeping the place looking good. and he spends a lot of time fixing our boo-boos. So it would be a lot easier to come in straight. You wouldn't have hopefully, wouldn't have the markups on the lawn that we did before. I'm gonna propose to pave it a little bit wider than what's previously there now, to avoid that situation with the lawn. And I've been talking to, my paving contractor, and he's gonna talk to his boss, and there is a possibility that we may get a reduction on the cost of it, if not totally free for paving it. But he's gotta get the okay from his boss first. And
So what would be your plan, to pull up the paved?
after that the new driveway is put in, I don't wanna pull it up until the new driveway is in, because, you know, if they start using it, when we get it all situated and all graded, it's just gonna rough it up and make it, you know, we'll have to redo it again. So my thought was to get it all situated, get it all to grade, leave the old driveway in, pave the new driveway, and then once the paved driveway is done, then we can go back over with our excavator and rip up that pavement, turn it back to grass, seed it, mulch it and all that, put it back lawn.
I mean, I know when they were on the firehouse committee, I sat in on a couple of those, and the biggest reason it was there was because of the sight distance with people
Coming
coming
up
up
over
the
the hill.
hill, 40 miles an hour down to 30.
Right.
I know it's an entrance only,
Right.
but it's
So-
still.
So an entrance only, that you don't pull out of that drive, so you
Right.
don't need to look both ways for traffic. All you're doing is, if you're headed to Mount Abe, you're not gonna cut in front of somebody to come across the road. You gotta wait for that person to go by, or if the red lights are on, hopefully the person coming from Mount Abe way will stop, and then you could go through.
Yeah, but if they're coming in where you want it,
Mhm.
it's even less sight distance for them to see those red lights or people turning
Come
in or
over
coming in
fast.
around the hill.
They're turning
The
left
trees are
on the
gone.
main road
Oh, those trees are
and
gone,
walking
yeah.
to
Right.
around the corner. It increases the sightline distance if you're headed west and you turn left into that drive.
Right, you
So
turn
even
it
if you were
right.
straight, you would have, by virtue of being, 20 feet further north. you would have a
75
lot-
feet.
A lot more view.
But anyway, so, unless Peter, you got something else to add, cause you were there too, so.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's been a problem, you know, with people driving on the lawn and
They
Brett
get their
put
licenses.
Brett had them put a rock there to stop them from driving on lawn on that side, so they started driving on lawn on the other side.
And as somebody who responds to this, in the middle of the night, marginal conditions, you come in there a little bit hot, you're just fishtailing all around, and the last thing you want is one of the firefighters to wreck on the way to the station.
What's the possibility, Eric, you said about widening that black strip, the dotted line straight in, just widening out the S-curve to another 4 or 5 feet, widening that.
How wide is that? How wide is
It's not
that?
very wide, it isn't.
8 feet maybe?
Well, it
10
might
the
be
most.
10 at the most. I
So
had,
how
I
wide are
did
your
see the town
plows?
truck just barely miss
We
it.
cover about a 13-foot path, 14-foot path.
I did see the town truck almost clip that rock within inches this
Yeah, when the
winter.
Freightliner goes over there, even with Mike did it with the 450. When you come around, you make your first pass in, you're good, but then when you back up to try to swing over to the left to get the parking areas, that's where you run into the issue. It's when you're trying to get over farther to make it wider to, you know, basically open up the whole thing. That's where you run into the issue as far as getting on the lawn and stuff like that. So even if we widen that, Joel, you know as well as I do, everybody's gonna try to widen the whole blacktop. So you're still gonna get on the lawns, on the corners. Coming in straight, even if you try to widen the lawns, you're not gonna get, or the pavement, you're not gonna get onto the lawns as much. You still may get onto it a little bit, but nowhere near the couple feet that we've done, right, Brett? On the corners.
So in terms of the lines I've drawn on here, so I've made the the road a little bit bigger where that red line is there.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be enough in terms of your turning left or right into this? Is that wide enough now?
Well, you'll have there'll be wings on the end, sort of like
Yeah.
the existing driveway
Yeah,
or the
so a little bit
Firehouse
in.
Drive.
Okay.
They'll have a little bit of a radius on the end. It won't just butt up straight to the pavement.
I mean, I think visually it'll look fine. It's gonna match Firehouse Drive in terms of that straight line there, straight road. In terms of the site, because you're only turning into there one way, it doesn't seem like it could be an issue. I mean, if someone comes up really fast up Stony Hill and it is ignoring the speed sign, which is right up there at the top, you could potentially run into a problem as someone turns left or right. Eric, do you know, in terms of, are you turning left into there more or right into there more?
When we plow it, we turn left.
Okay, so you're always coming down. So you have, I mean, it's still pretty decent sight distance. I don't have any issues with this being done. And I think, and it also gives if you grass that area in with the road now, it gives you a better helicopter landing pad too. So there's more places to land your helicopters.
Yeah.
And there's also the existing driveway to the north of it that's even closer to the crest of the hill.
Yeah, but that's not emergency access.
No,
I
but
mean,
the fact
they
that
don't-
it's
they
only
don't-
one,
the number
it's a
of
single
people in
way.
Cars don't come in and out of there like they come.
Yeah,
in.
but that's not, there again, that's irrelevant because it's an access.
If
They
you're coming
could-
up that hill and gonna turn into that apartment that the Legion owns, hopefully you put your blinker on somewhere around Airport Drive to turn in there.
No, we're talking about
No,
Nelson's.
Sandy's house.
The
Oh,
Nelson's,
Sandy's
yeah.
house. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that definitely is, that's definitely close to the top of the hill there. I don't have any issue with this. I think it would clean it up, and yeah, I mean, the curve, obviously it's a design thing. It makes it look nice. But it's just not
More
thought
grass
about in
would look
terms of
nice
plowing.
too.
Yes, exactly.
I wanted the road to go, the fire trucks to go right on the west.
So the other thing
is
is too, right now, I got the paving contractor coming in the third week of May to pave Harts Gravel Road, a section on Harts Gravel Road. So we would be doing that drive that same time that they're here. So potentially, if the paving contractor keeps the schedule, that would be done by Memorial Weekend.
Brett's got a question.
Brett, go ahead.
Valerie noted in her town administrator's report something about, I don't know if it was the Act 250 permit, just something need to be checked out with that.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay, and of course, based on the previous agenda item, I mean, certainly a conversation would be warranted with the neighbor to the west of the fire station, who one has been an excellent neighbor, but two is very meticulous about their lawn, and I just would like to disclose ahead of time before we showed up with an excavator one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, to your point there, Brett, also, the way you come in now, your lights, I mean, yeah, we have great, Sandy and, I can't think of her husband's name, right, it skips me. But they've been great neighbors, and he cleans that lawn up really nice, but when you come in the existing entrance, your lights shine right in through the bushes, you know.
On the S curve there?
On the S curve.
Yeah.
And this was coming straight in, they would not shine in.
That's right, you said the bushes aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
So look at that, there's a positive.
And also, well, the one thing I have to look at with the straight too, talking about the lawn, would be how snow is removed or plowed. Would it start to build up more on the neighbor's property if we're plowing down a straight road?
No, you're still gonna be 10, 15 feet off of the neighbors there.
Okay.
Or plow with a smaller truck.
So yeah, so the Act 250, I put a call into Josh, who's the district coordinator for our area, to find out from a zoning standpoint, it's a site plan change, but it's a non-substantive change. So we need to draw up a new site plan, but there's no issues there.
Okay.
The impervious soil will actually
be
decreased.
Yeah.
And you must be pushing the 3 acre impervious soil there.
We don't even have 3 acres.
We don't know. Well, they're moving it to Whit Baker now.
Do we need a motion for this?
They do that.
Yes, please.
Someone want to make a
Make a motion
I'll-
to change the entrance to the firefighter access for the fire station.
Second. But also too, you might want to add some conditions in terms of dependent on like the costs associated with it and the Act 250, whether we can get approval for that.
Well, this vote would be to authorize moving forward with those things, presuming that if they require additional approvals, they get obtained.
Okay.
I thought that's what we said, Ian.
I didn't hear, that's not the specifics of that aren't in your motion.
No,
that was my concern.
They were
Basically authorization to proceed.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I will second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Wait,
Whoops,
Hold on.
Brett's
Question
got a
from
question.
Brett's got a question. Go ahead.
Well, I guess it's related to the neighbor to the west. I'm happy to volunteer, but to identify a person to go have that conversation with our neighbor.
If you're volunteering, we're accepting.
Yep.
Yeah, if you folks are okay with it, I'm happy to do that.
Great. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, now, all those in favor?
All right.
Right.
All right. I don't hear any.
I'm a
opposed.
nay.
You're the nay? Michelle is a nay. Sorry, I almost didn't even ask the question. So.
Brett, you have one more question?
I'm sorry, just one last thing. I didn't give Ian Albinson credit for that photo. That's his photo.
That was a great day.
It was a great day.
Great photo too. So did I understand that motion was 4-1?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Brett. All right, now we're on to number 5. Vermont State Hazard Mitigation Plan Update, review and discussion of survey questions.
Hopefully folks had a chance to glance at the information that was posted on the website from the Vermont Emergency Management Office. They're working on the update of the statewide hazard mitigation plan, and they're asking all select boards and members of communities to consider. They've listed 6 specific questions. I can post them on the screen. And I think the questions will be relevant for us as we also are gearing up to update Bristol's hazard mitigation plan and also the local emergency management plan. So these are questions to get us thinking about our preparedness for natural disasters and vulnerable populations that if we're not already aware of them, how do we become aware of, how do we identify vulnerable populations within the community and be prepared?
Aren't these questions some of what we deal with in our hazard mitigation plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a definition that they use of
Frontline community manager.
members?
Yeah, well, no, I was thinking more of the vulnerable population. Is it like very young kids and very old people, those that need some sort of special medical assistance? I just wasn't.
Or some with housing issues, maybe in the floodplain or whatever.
I
Just trying to
thought
make
of
sure
that
I
question,
understood what they were talking about.
and there's a mix of people. There's not just, low income that are in the floodplain,
Right.
but there's,
Oh, yeah. And people with mobility issues. and-
mobility.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like they're clustered in a single location either. As Joel was just alluding to, they're all over, all in different places in the community.
You can, number 5, you just instead of that question mark, put a $sign there.
Yeah. One of the things I would like us to be able to do, partly in response to these questions, but also for our plan, is to better use the Vermont Alert System to get information out to the population, to we did a few years ago have an effort to get people to sign up for it, and many did, and then it kind of lost momentum. But even for those that did sign up, we haven't really used it, whether it's water leak issues or to alert people that maybe, if there's a heat wave coming, that the Holly Hall will be open as a cooling shelter, that kind of information that we could get out to people using the Vermont Alert System. I would like to see that more fully explored and put to use.
Heck, I got 2 alerts today from a tractor trailer down in Norwell closing the road.
Yeah, I got that too.
Well, a question I have, unless Valerie knows who it is, the last I heard, the guy at the state that was doing that left.
Correct.
I don't even know how you send out an alert on all
Right,
the people that signed up.
That's a state communication issue.
Right, yeah.
I was gonna say, Brett's got his hand up.
Yeah, and as people do turn over, over time in general, there should be a way somehow, and I don't know the answer to that, how we keep that process current and available for us to tap into. So, because otherwise, it's use it or lose it, I guess.
Brett?
You're muted.
You're muted, Brett.
Thank you. To answer Sharon's question about VT Alert and access, Sharon, you can contact me tomorrow. I supervise that person, and actually I'm in the process of hiring someone, so I'm currently doing all the work.
Oh, jeepers.
So, but I can help out with that. And then
Cool.
back to the earlier one, you all were discussing how to identify vulnerable persons within the community. Has anyone heard of that CARE program that the state has, the Citizens Assistance Registry for Emergencies? That's it's kind of sponsored by the E911 board, Vermont 211, Vermont Emergency Management. We actually had a meeting today, but it's a system where a person or a family member registers their loved one, who is vulnerable. And so in the event of an emergency or in anticipation of an emergency, when big disasters on the horizon, the town's emergency management director, can request that information at that time so you know exactly where these people live. And so you can focus your attention to them, should we get struck by some large scale incident. So there is a system in place, but kind of like VT Alert, to your point, Valerie, systems are only as good as people use them and keep them up to date.
Mm-hmm. And get the word out that they're available so that folks know to sign up for them.
Yep.
And what is a frontline community member, Brett? Do you know?
A frontline community member. I would have to look that one up here. I don't know.
I mean, it's mentioned in here like 4 times, so.
Well, it says individuals or groups within your community would be most harmed by or have the most difficult time recovering from a natural hazard event are frontline community members. That's what they're defining.
They do define it. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and going old school, we have something still that I think the town's got a unique in its way that we could still use if everybody knew what the blast was the old fire whistle.
Yeah, well, you're not gonna hear that at my house.
No, but you're gonna hear that for
Yeah.
a long ways. If that thing keeps blowing, and they'll go, oh, we know what, it's been
Something's
pouring
wrong.
raining for 2
Interesting,
days.
yeah.
And they blasting the whistle, we better go to the alert.
Huh.
Where does that live now?
It's mounted at the fire
Is that
station.
your fire station?
Yep,
I didn't even know.
with a
that
big
was
old
a-
tank still hooked to it.
Huh.
I mean, there had to be some quirks worked out and things of nature, and the
Report
town would,
forum would be a Twitter if you use it.
they'd have to be,
Yeah, if it started blowing, people are gonna start calling their neighbors and.
what's going on? I said, well, that's a
Exactly.
natural
Yeah, 'cause
disaster.
most of them don't know.
Well,
Right.
if I may, to Joel's point, we put a lot of emphasis on electronics, the web, phone systems, and we prepare for all these systems going offline. So when those those more, I hate to say doomsday scenarios, when you're going to resort to, amateur radios to communicate, and how do you notify the public? That whistle, that air horn, if there was a policy and procedure in place, in the event of an outage, whether it be, with electricity outage that affects the web and people are in the dark, if the air horn blows X amount of times, that means you should go to the fire station. You should go to the town hall to seek additional information. We're creating hubs like that around the state for those various scenarios. So when everything goes down and people don't know what's going on, where do they go to get information? So it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it takes some educating the community, but that's doable.
But they're gonna ask questions if the horn starts blowing. They're gonna call somebody.
They'll all look
If the phones work.
March of 1974, when the horn kept blowing about 3 o'clock, Main Street was on fire. I said, I gotta go down. I was a sophomore in high school. I gotta go down and see what's going on.
I'm sure you were helpful.
No, but,
No, he wasn't. He admitted it.
I had to get to baseball practice at 5, so I was on my bike.
I apologize. I didn't mean to derail your.
No, it was good. Good information.
No, it was good.
One thing I noticed in looking through that list, that there were childcare centers and home providers listed on there, but I didn't see any, like some of our elderly people are in group, sort of home facilities.
Well,
as
I had gone through and gave Val a couple that I knew, but I don't know all of them. It's just like, there's a new daycare provider that came looking for the ARPA funds, and I said to her, I can't remember the name of it.
The Willow Well, is that them?
Friends Nest.
Well, they're affiliated with Willow Well.
Willow Well,
Yeah.
right. I knew Willow Well, but I couldn't remember the name of the daycare.
Yeah,
or
my
the
neighbor's the
early
director.
education.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are a couple things that are missing. So do we need some sort of a plan to go through that more?
Well, I gave her what
completely?
information I had. She was updating it, so,
Okay.
I mean, if you have information, we should.
Well, I'm just like, I don't know, like I know my neighbors up the street have a couple elderly folks with it, like Mary Bingham has a couple folks, but
No, I don't think Mary has any anymore.
she doesn't have any
No,
after.
She retired.
Oh, did she?
No, her daughter does that. on
No,
Cross
Heather does
Road.
it.
Heather does
Right,
it.
Heather
okay.
does it, Cross.
Atkins
But I mean, are
does.
there,
I think-
I don't know if there are
I think,
others in town.
O'Toole does too, Tim O'Toole.
Yeah,
And his
Elizabeth
wife.
That's-
Atkins does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you guys know, then you should give that information
Yeah,
out.
I'll give you the
because
information that I have, but.
What's her face's son? down
What's
on
her face?
17.
That is a very technical term. I thought I was the only one that did that.
She used to run it, and I think her son has taken over.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't
Tony.
think of the last
Tony,
name.
thank you,
Tony
Tony. And then Travis's girlfriend
Yeah.
on North Street, right next to
Elizabeth.
Bruce.
Amy's old place.
Amy's old place, she's got people there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of places that.
Yeah, so I mean, if we know them, I mean, I don't know how to get that information out to people, saying, if you take care of the
I mean,
elderly,
is that a
please
front
give
porch
us your
forum?
contact
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, is that a front porch forum?
I don't know.
I mean, that's one way
Does,
to reach a large group of people.
Roscoe still do it?
No, Linda doesn't do it anymore.
So maybe an announcement on Front Porch Forum to gather some of that information.
I mean, they change constantly, so.
Well, that's
Yeah.
something too. Yeah. They may not have the same
Yeah,
person.
Heather
but-
Shepherd does it out on her,
Yep.
in her place on Carlstrom Road.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Bruce would have a list for us. of
He might
people
have,
that
Bruce
he
might be a
knows.
good contact.
Good point.
He does a lot of wellness checks.
Okay.
Okay.
So any other thoughts on these questions?
I like Joel's idea of putting a dollar sign on number 5. That seems like a really good
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, yeah. And is there anything else that we want to pass along for natural hazard preparedness?
Yeah, I don't know, but number 4, they took care of one of them, which was Sycamore Park, when they said, guess what, you can't live here anymore. I mean,
Right.
they may wind up doing that with some other places if,
That's possible.
I mean, if the river moves and ebbs and flows, they're gonna. I mean, I always worry about the trailer park down here,
Oh, blazes.
blazes, I mean, how close are they? How high up are they from the river? I mean. how
That
far
was
has been
all,
flooded
that
up
was
there?
all cribbed in 98,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean it
Yeah,
can't go
Can't
away.
go away, right.
And there's the house on the corner of 116 that gets flooded every year too. Down by the park, right across from the park.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking about that one.
Yeah, well, they took out the trailer that was below that always
Yeah.
flooded.
There was
The one
two
up
there.
doesn't.
Yeah, my
There was
grandfather
two there.
Newton used to live
Yeah,
there.
the first one is up high enough that
But that used to be
they're
awful.
I used to
usually
stay
pretty
in that
good.
trailer with my grandfather.
I mean, his garden gets flooded.
Oh, it's the best thing for
He
it?
gets a lot of good topsoil
He
on
does, he
that.
does.
Yep.
Got a lot
That
of
river's
silt.
still, I think that river's gonna come the other side. of that
Yeah, and I
new
don't know
bridge
about Maple Ridge, if
someday.
they're far enough away.
Yeah, no.
They're far enough and high enough away,
I think so.
but.
Okay.
All right, well, if folks come up with any other thoughts, feel free to pass them along. And I'll follow up this week with the Vermont Emergency Management to pass along what we've talked about.
All righty. Okay. So on to number 6. Review and adoption of the Bristol Local Emergency Plan.
Right. Hopefully folks had a chance to check it out. Let's see. I posted a redacted version to the website, took out the personal contact information for people. As I mentioned, there's been a little bit of some updating on some of the key individuals. And Michelle mentioned the daycares. Not sure what other ones should be added to this list.
I can get a list and let you know what we're missing.
Okay, that would be great. And then shelters. That's an area that for quite a while, we haven't really tested our shelter protocols. That's something that Meredith and I had begun to do a while back, but we got sidetracked and just didn't follow through on the next steps. And that would include meeting with the school personnel and actually kind of go talk through some scenarios and make sure that we're all on the same page about who would do what under what circumstances, and communication, lines of communication, readiness. So those are still to be determined.
Does Bristol Elementary have a standby generator?
No.
But Mount Abe does.
Yep.
I mean, we might want to rethink that.
Well, that's the alternative. The elementary school is the alternative. Mount Abe is the.
It's the first.
Oh, okay.
Mount Abe is- She's just got it down a little farther. There.
Mount Abe's
Primary's
a
Mount Abe.
primary local shelter.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't have a generator there? Is it just cost?
That's a school thing.
That's a,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I
a
think
school issue.
yeah.
You'd have to ask the school.
I'll do that then. I was looking at just our
I guess everything I've asked was there.
Val, looking at our social media, our links. Can I work on getting all our links the same instead of it being random accounts?
What do you mean?
Oh, sorry, just in terms of our contact, in terms of Facebook and Twitter and things like that. Can we do them so they're all like Bristol VT instead of Bristol Town Admin and some of the other ones that we have?
We can try.
Just for consistency and things like that. I know
Sure.
it's not tremendously important for this, but it just helps people remember so they know they can go to various sources for information and use the same details for the town.
Well, for the social media ones, those are tied to my specific accounts. So they're not other than the town Facebook. specific.
Can we make them more broad then? So it is the town as opposed to your personal accounts?
Sure, I suppose.
Okay, I'll work on that. Because we've got
Okay.
like our site is bristolvt.org, and then our Facebook is Bristol VT, but then Instagram is Town of Bristol VT, and then Twitter is Bristol Town Admin. So I'll just sort of work on those to try to get them more consistent. That it helps going forward too when we're gonna redo the website.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want a motion to approve with changes? And
Yes, please.
keep it updated? So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Excellent.
That brings up a question. Should we ever, I mean, we've all got our own email, Michelle's and M Curly, whatever, and then Rocker, Yahoo, one, Joel Booger. Should we all have one that says Town of Bristol? I don't know.
Yes,
Well,
we should.
We've had a discussion before.
Ian would love that.
You know,
I would love
I would
that.
love
And at the moment, for some reason, it costs us $100 for each of us to have one, which shouldn't be the case. And I'm working on that. I think we should. I think any select board member should have their own unique email, because all those emails you could be asked to go through them and make them public. I mean, they are public, and that makes it difficult, because that means someone could just access all of your emails to be able to necessarily find what they want. And we shouldn't have that. It should all be public record. So I'm working on that as fast as I can, which apparently isn't very
Personally,
fast.
don't want them to have all my
Hey,
emails.
Ian.
Yeah.
Ian, have you talked to Dominion Tech? Because I saw something on our MuniNet that said that you can do group emails through Office 365.
Yeah.
So maybe you're only paying for one, but you have
Okay.
it's like
Goes to
Select Board 1, Select Board 2, Select Board 3, or something like that.
that would be nicer. I don't know why we'd have to be paying for an account where we only need the email, but yeah, I'll look into that. Thanks, Sharon.
Yeah, Town of Starksville has that. Every select board has their own email address through Office 360.
You're so fancy in Starksboro.
You are fancy.
Hey, we're ahead of the ballgame.
So we had a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Number 7, approve letter of intent to participate in the FY 2024 VTrans Municipal Road Grants in Aid Program.
So moved.
Second. I don't know why we wouldn't.
All those in favor?
Turn down money.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
There you go. That was an easy one. Retroactively authorized submission of a teen center grant application to the J. Warren and Lois McClure Foundation for employee support.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second then. He can move it, I'll
Is
second.
that gonna, so that's supporting another new employee, or gonna support somebody that's already hired?
It's gonna be a teen.
It was a teen
summer
to work in the garden.
and
Oh, okay.
help
Yeah,
out,
just for the garden beds are kept
So
up.
no benefits, no nothing?
No, just a
okay.
kid.
All
Just
right.
a summer.
Just a
Right?
kid. A young adult, a young adult.
A young to help, some to help out, yeah. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Review and approve the minutes from March 27 and April 10.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 27 minutes with whatever changes we made. I have not checked out the April 10th ones
Yeah.
yet.
I wrote the 27th, but not the 10th. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Authorize accounts payable, warrant, and any liquor or tobacco licenses. And it
Were
looks
the
like we
April
have-
10th minutes approved?
No,
No.
'cause we haven't had a chance, I haven't had a chance to look at them.
I didn't look at them either.
Okay,
Sorry. Sorry, we were jumping right ahead, sorry.
gotcha.
It looks like we've got liquor licenses for the Tillerman, Bristol Country Store, and Nomadic Chef, which is
And
10.
also, I got one late this afternoon for the mini factory for their first class and outside consumption. That should be the last one for this round of licenses.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I just have a question on the tandem one, is that first?
Oh, wait a
class-
minute.
Whoops,
Second.
I'm sorry, Peter.
It's okay. Second.
Okay, I thought.
Go ahead.
So the first class, is she having a restaurant there now?
It's always
They
been
do.
open.
Yeah.
Go
They
ahead.
do sit down
They do.
meals.
Yeah, that's the only one she has is a first class.
Yeah, it's just a pop-up. They don't do it regularly.
Okay, that's what I was wondering,
Yeah,
because
so it's for their pop-ups.
I don't know what they're classified for their wastewater, how much wastewater they got approved for.
Well, they don't seat very many. They have one big table.
They have
They're
Sometimes
usually
they're
a pretty
takeout.
good, well, they have a pretty good number of seats too, because they
Yeah.
got them when we had extra,
Mhm.
I believe.
I just didn't know if she's exceeding the capacity of.
I wouldn't think so, given the amount of pop-ups that happen there. It's not that many.
And you shouldn't,
What
like Michelle
threw
said,
me was the
mostly
first class
takeout.
restaurant license, that's what I,
Yeah, they've always had that just in terms of supporting the pop-ups that they do.
okay.
Okay.
Good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The warrants were $97,121.15.
Thank you. Select Board Roundtable, and we start with Michelle.
I have one thing, I don't know if anybody's checked out the Howden Hall sign, but it is in pretty bad need of repair, repainting, redoing something.
Reg is fully aware, and I've talked to him, and I've connected him with the designers that worked on the town signs.
Okay.
And I hope that when their schedule opens up and when Reg gets to organizing with that, he'll hopefully work with them to maybe redesign that sign.
All right, when I went by it the
Yeah.
other day, I went, oh man, that's
Yes.
bad.
It looks sort of like a horror Howden Hall
Yeah.
at the moment.
It's like, well,
Come into
no,
our
like we've
museum.
neglected it for way too long.
Right.
That's all I have.
Joel?
Skip me for a minute, because I'm sending something to Ian and Valerie, and I'll show you guys.
Okay. Peeker,
I'm good.
you're good.
Oh,
Ian.
wait, Peeker.
Oh, wait.
Peeker. I have a question
Yes.
for Peeker. Did you talk
Yes.
to Greg Butler about the cemetery? He was in the other day and asked, and I told him I wasn't sure where we were at with that. If we're getting ready to take those trees out or not.
I guess I'm gonna have to go down and take those trees out because it doesn't look like we're gonna get to cut the others
Yeah.
at this point. So I will
Okay.
go down and get those out, probably this coming weekend.
So you can.
And that guy never called you back in there? I've called him again 2 weeks ago, I called him the night afterwards, a meeting from Job Corps. He said he returned my call, but I didn't get a message, so he said he was gonna call Eric, so I'll call him again tomorrow.
He's never called me at all once.
Okay, so, okay,
That happened a couple years
I
ago.
mean, there's a fair amount of,
yeah.
there's
I
a half a
went through
dozen trees there that are dead that need to come down.
Right.
There's
Before
half
they
a dozen laying down.
Yeah, well, before they come down and take out more stones, you know, that's the
Well,
other
maybe
side
we
of
need
it.
to figure out whether we just have to hire somebody to do it. Yeah. I mean, if he's not calling you back, they're either that busy or they're not interested.
They're not interested, yeah.
I'll give them one more try. and
I'll
then
give him
we'll-
one more try.
Okay.
Maybe I'll call him on my office phone and call Eric on my phone, and we'll have a three-way
Yeah, there you go.
conversation.
There you go.
Merge the calls.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Ian, did you have
Oh, sorry.
anything for this evening?
A couple things. Wanted to thank Meredith for repairing this slide at the playground on the town green. It was cracked, the sort of smaller slide, maybe just damage over the winter. And I think the company sent out a new replacement, and I think Meredith and her crew, Taylor, swapped it out, put the new slide in, looks great. So people
Nice.
aren't catching their clothes on the cracked slide. I actually removed a couple of very large screws from the structure as you go into the main section of the treehouse that were sticking up because the very top of it's rotting off. So I just unscrewed those because they were literally giant screws sticking out that someone could just put their hand right onto. So I removed those. But at some point, we'll probably have to get Bobby back to take a look at maybe replacing some of that wood. In terms of a couple core things, so we're going to work on taking down the decorations, which have been up for a very long time. At least the stars and the lights on the lamppost, they're coming down. And then we're going to be putting together the 4 picnic tables that we got about a year and a half ago that I think Eric still has stored behind one of his buildings. And we're looking at a date. And I'll talk to Eric offline about this. And in like another few weeks, we would put them on the town green, and then we would assemble them and they would be on the town green for the foreseeable future. So this is, we previously discussed this, we just never had them built, but we're going to build them this year so they can be used. And especially because we're going to bring the farmers market back and have other events there too.
Ian, can I ask a quick question? The bike racks that are out, they're silver and they're green. Do we have both of them? For some reason, I thought all we had were the green ones.
There's the green ones. I think there's just one, but maybe there's two. Green ones were purchased many, many years ago, and it was part of the lamppost that got put in on the town green. The gray ones are what we bought, that Core bought with the grant they got from the Vermont Realtors Association, and that was it was the bike racks, and it was the trash receptacles, and it was the picnic tables. And so those all go with that. And so those were, they're a little bit, they were less expensive than the ones, the green ones. They were a lot more money. But oh, and then the trash thing too, I've been keeping tabs on that. There've been a couple times when the trash has been missed on a Monday. They usually pick up both trash and recycling on Mondays now. They do it once a week. But Rich has been great and very responsive to some areas that I've seen that needed pickup, and has usually done it within the day. And I think the new cans in the park are working out really well with the schedule. So I'm happy to see that that's working out, and they're being used too. And the trash is going in the trash bin, and recycling is going in the recycling. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Joel, I'm gonna come back to you.
Yeah, you sent me on a mission. One of those things I filled you in earlier tonight, and the other I'll fill Peter in because he was late. And then you asked me about the sign up to Luke's.
Yes.
I called the school and talked with Floyd, the business manager, who contacted me with Joel Fitzgerald. Joel and I we're gonna meet up there. This is a sign that they have out on Route 7, and Valerie, I sent it to you and Ian to your phones.
Yep.
They can control that from the IT department. Mount Abe, it only blinks when they want it. So school's canceled that day. It only blinks from like 7:45 till 8:15.
And it's solar, right?
And it's solar.
Nice.
There's no power to it. They're willing to talk to us about putting that in up there.
Nice.
And I said we would probably have them able to at least get the new do not enter signs and new signage. But our real goal was to get rid of the electrical pin. And I says, look back, you guys are probably paying about $30 a month for that. And Floyd was gonna look up. So we were supposed to have a meeting this week, and I kept Valerie in the loop with an email. But this one is great. It's all by solar, and they can do it right when no school, or it doesn't blink, only when they set it on timer.
I was gonna say, do they set the timer like via computer?
Yeah, they do.
That's all.
And then if there's no school that day, they can go in and click it off, and shut it off. So I took a picture of it. That's the one out on 17, just to get the village streets.
Nice.
Okay, so that's all I had. Working on.
Great. I had a question about Luke, so you've already answered that for me. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was there were some swing mats that were on the playground that apparently got stolen. So if anybody knows where the swing mats are.
They haven't come back yet, huh?
I haven't heard anything.
I thought Meredith was hoping they would just reappear.
Yeah.
Please.
Those are the new ones we just bought?
Yes.
You can't have nice things.
No, guess not.
Isn't there any way we can like chain them down? It's like really, I mean, there's really no way.
We used to
unless
have
you spike them.
We used to have a camera out there.
I'd take that down right here. Remember that?
Wouldn't be a bad thing. So yeah, that was unfortunate because she just bought them and they're expensive. But they also help.
And they're heavy. They're not light.
Yeah, it took some effort to take those. And it also helps with when kids swing, they kick up the mulch that's underneath there. So anyway, it helps keep all that in place. So unfortunately, so if anyone knows the whereabouts of the swing mats, let us know.
Or just wants to return them. That would be
or
nice.
just wants to return them. You could, just like you took them in the darkness of night, you could bring them back. So
in the darkness of night or during the day.
Or during the day. We don't care.
No questions asked.
We don't care. Any other town administrator's report? Sorry.
Nothing.
Did you have anything for town administrators?
Nope, nothing to add to my written report.
Okay.
Oh, I want to ask one thing about the Beltane poster. I was looking at it now. I can't remember what it was for, but I made a comment.
Waterworks. No, watershed.
That watershed. Make sure that they don't park in the road. because that's always the issue down
Yeah,
there.
it says on the poster, park on the road shoulder.
Yeah, well, the wheels have to be off the road.
If you're off the shoulder, you're in the ditch.
Yeah, right, there's
Yeah.
Where, down by the old shooting range?
Yeah.
Yeah, we put up signs that said, do not park on the road.
Yeah.
One on each side of the drive.
Hopefully somebody will see that. All right, correspondence reports, correspondence received.
Done?
Do we have any correspondence we need to know about tonight?
You're muted, Val.
Yeah, just what was listed in the TA report and posted to the website.
Great. Great. Anything else that we missed this evening?
Just, I will be, at the May meetings, I'll be here, but I'll be maybe late. I have to umpire in Shelburne both those days, on Mondays.
All right.
I just got one thing, if I may.
Sure.
Just for you
No.
guys, I don't know, just for you guys' consideration, when you guys approve liquor licenses, if they run during the winter, can there be a provision in there that they cannot put out their, chain link things that where the people have to sit, because they interfere with plowing the sidewalk. Mike's ran over the one where the old bakery is twice now during the winter, because they have it out so far in the sidewalk that you can't get through with the sidewalk plow.
They don't pick it up or they use it in
They
winter?
use it in the winter?
Yeah, they had it out there, I don't know how many times this winter.
They leave them out all night.
No, they bring them inside.
But during the
They
day,
have the chairs out there too, Dalton.
You know,
Yeah, they
don't
got chairs out there and then the thing, and then of course, according to the person that I talked to, is they sell liquor there during the winter. And they come out and sit out there. Well, I've never seen anybody sit
Well,
out
and
there.
they
but
shouldn't be
anyway.
allowed
They're not
outside.
even open in the evening, are they?
So,
Don't they close at
so
3?
maybe it's as simple as when the winter parking ban goes in effect, the
Things go
The
away.
chains.
things go away.
You know, that's something I've noticed. They're crowding that. You try to walk from Covers down to the bank or wherever, down through past Snaps. And the chains are getting out further and further, and you can barely meet single file down through there.
So we might need to send a reminder.
Remember, we don't mind you sitting out there and we enjoy it, but the sidewalk is for the people to use.
Yeah.
Well, and they're
Walk.
supposed to be keeping it within that first square.
Yeah. That's tight.
Just food for thought, that's all.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't make it when the winter parking ban's in effect, the outside.
Meaning the light blinks, or you're
No,
just saying
the
when
winter parking ban,
starts?
So
November
December 1
1st.
to April 1st.
April
But are you
1st.
saying during the day that's an issue? So,
And he may plow the sidewalks during the day.
yeah, okay. I'm just trying to get it all straight in my head. That, it definitely makes sense, and I want to support it. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it. But yeah, I think the winter parking ban will cover it.
And I talked with her twice about it, this winter. She wasn't, I mean, we had a good conversation.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong,
But
but
it still happened.
yeah, she said, well, the state permitted it for us, so we can do it.
We could
No,
make that-
we permit it.
Yeah.
Well, that, she said this,
Yeah.
whatever.
But that could be a
and,
condition of the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
She may be able to
Maybe
sell
we need to put
license.
that on all the
She may be able
permits
to have a
next year,
license to
that,
sell
yeah.
liquor, that comes from the
You're
state.
not allowed
Right.
To
to.
use the sidewalk is out.
You know, your outside consumption permit does not work from this date to this date.
When
You know,
it,
'cause
did we
technically,
approve?
they have to have an outside consumption permit,
Yeah,
right?
did we approve those for a year when we approved them,
Right.
I
Sharon?
think so.
Yes, they reapply every
I
year.
believe they are for a year.
So we won't be able to correct this error until next year, or can
When it
we
comes up.
amend them?
Well, hers is on the agenda tonight. I don't know if you can go back and amend. But you wouldn't be able to amend the other ones. You can, but I have to prove to them that they were all covered in a select board meeting with the minutes.
Yeah,
Because
well,
we did that with,
I don't think it's fair for us to go back
Right.
and do one. I think
I
we
think
need
we have
to
to
do
do
them all at once.
yeah,
Assay-
you can
assay-
do it in a subsequent meeting and send the conditions to the state and say, these are conditions that we want. That's what we did with South Mountain, because the original conditions didn't get put on last year, so we could do it in a later meeting. And then we just sent it to DLC and they accepted it.
I mean, that may be what we do, because I think we do it later and say, any you know, permits that we issued for outside consumption is only valid through this date and this date.
Is that true just for?
Yeah, and I
just
gotta
make
look
it-
and see if I almost think outside consumption's a shorter period, but I don't remember. I don't think I have one
Because
here.
if they
for
have a regular
outside.
liquor license, they can't just walk outside with it.
No,
No.
No.
They
although they're
No.
looking at changing the law so that you can take,
Liquor home with you?
yeah, after COVID.
COVID.
Get it to go drink.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
Which is scary.
I guess we can
Very
just
scary.
say, due to winter maintenance, the sidewalks must be no outside.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm just thinking ahead. We're gonna have to make it specific to Main Street because like, I know the Legion has their outside
Yeah.
consumption.
Well, if you can.
Yeah,
And
but they don't
Tillerman's
usually
has
go out.
outside consumption.
If they gotta, if
gotta
they go
smoke
out
it.
to smoke, they'll take a drink out with them, yeah.
Well, okay, so given that, I don't know if I agree with not allowing it during the winter time. The problem is the sidewalk plow not being able to plow because their stanchions are in the way. They just need to move their stanchions. I think we can still allow them if we can to have outside consumption, but their stanchions need to be on one square of the sidewalk. That's what they're allowed.
No, the sidewalk
No.
plow won't fit when they're out there. That's the
They need
issue.
to bring them in.
When there's a snowbank there on the road when we plowed snow back against the curb, and you got the snowbank there, so the plow's gotta set into the sidewalk another couple feet. So by the time you do that, and then you got a 5-foot wide sidewalk plow, it pretty much pushes the chain right back tight to the chairs that are outside. So there's really no area for the people to walk in technically to get to the chairs.
Right.
Okay, all right. I thought there was enough room and they were in the area, but if there is no room to actually put stanchions and chairs when the sidewalk plow comes down, and we're looking at a sidewalk plow that's potentially larger than we have now as well, right?
Yes.
As a replacement, so.
I checked on another company that makes a broom sidewalk
Okay.
machine that actually has the bristles, it has the vacuum, it has the water, so
Nice.
people, and it also comes with a,
Fancy.
I know, and it comes with a V plow. You can get them with a V plow, you can get them with a drop sander, a water tank on the back.
You know, actually,
So I'm waiting for a price on that machine.
the broom might work in certain snowstorms. Might actually work. It would definitely clean the,
No,
Right.
no?
because this is like a regular broom on a regular broom truck. So it's got the bristles on the side that mill it into the middle, and then it's got underneath the belly, it's got another broom.
It sucks it up.
That picks it up and then it sucks it up into a tank. It
Gotcha.
holds, almost 2 cubic yards.
Doesn't Mini Factory have seating it behind? Don't they have a little courtyard area
do.
behind?
They do.
So
That's what
perhaps
they
in
do.
the winter, we could ask if they only serve liquor
I think-
or serve alcohol.
No, we just do it for Main Street.
Just
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
no blocking of sidewalks for winter maintenance.
Right,
And
but I'm
even
saying
out
they could still
back,
serve.
there's a sidewalk that we plow out back.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
have,
but they have
they have a little
fenced
fence.
in
They had
area.
that fenced in.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So they could still serve. I guess I'm just trying to, if it's important
Yes.
for them to be able to
They
serve.
could, they
for
could do it
whatever-
on that back part with no
Yeah.
problem. It
So
wouldn't
maybe that's
interfere with
another
plowing
condition
use
of
or
the-
anything.
Cause you could sit down to Snaps, not have a beer and have lunch
Yeah,
or breakfast.
but they don't do it during the winter.
They don't do it, they pull theirs in.
No.
And so does covers, they put them up.
They put them up for the winter
And
too, yeah.
Bobcat, do they still do they do tables
No.
out front anymore?
They don't do them out. They haven't done them out
They
there
haven't.
Since
Since
COVID, they did it
for a
during
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I hadn't seen it since COVID, but,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Do we,
Motion adjourned? Or
Second.
do we need an executive session for anything?
Well, I would, okay, I can maybe talk about this later on. Just executive session for personnel, but it might be something that we want to discuss.
If we're gonna do that, it wasn't warned though, was it?
Yeah.
No, it's not
Wasn't
on.
There's
warned,
only the
so I
first
think we
one.
have to- We
I
have to
think we
warn
put it next agenda.
Ian.
Okay, that's fine.
We should have suspended executive session if you wanted to do that.
oh, right.
Yeah, but we didn't even warn it for personnel, we warned it for real estate
Oh,
Oh,
contract.
that's fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. There's no rush for that. Okay.
Okay,
All right,
all right.
Motion adjourned.
Okay.
Yep.
you did that, right?
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah,
We had a
somebody
second already?
seconded.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
All
Thank
those in
you.
favor?
All those in
Bye.
favor?
Good night.
Good
night.
Bye.
Night, Brett.
I'd like to see on
Say
the.
goodnight to Ella, I saw her there.
Night, Ella. I'd like to see him next agenda.